Hi, my name is Jeff Clark, and I'm the APU Technical Support Manager for CDAviation Services located in Joplin, Missouri. Today, we're going to talk about performing a combustor inspection on the Honeywell GTCP 36-100 Series APU. This inspection can be found in the Honeywell's maintenance manual for that particular model APU, whether it's a 100A in a Falcon 50, a 100G in a Challenger, or the 100G in the Gulfstream aircraft. The information can be found in the maintenance manual in section 4920-00. So the first thing we want to do is remove all safety wire. Once the safety wire is removed, we will disconnect the igniter plug lead. Then we will disconnect the fuel drain valve overboard drain line connected to the fuel drain fitting. Once the igniter plug lead is removed and the fuel drain valve overboard drain fitting is disconnected from the fuel drain orifice, we will then remove the fuel feed line going to the fuel atomizer on the top of the combustor assembly. Once all items are removed from the combustor assembly, from the atomizer, from the igniter plug, and from the fuel drain valve orifice fitting, we will then remove the combustor clamp that holds the combustor assembly inside the APU turbine pump. And now your combustor assembly is removed, and again with the attaching igniter plug, fuel drain fitting, and the atomizer intact. So now we will go ahead and proceed in disassembling the combustor assembly and continue with the full inspection of this whole assembly, including the accessories, in the second part of this video. As mentioned earlier, part 1 of our video and training on how to inspect the combustor assembly on a 100 series APU, we will first be discussing the inspection of the combustor cap, the combustion liner, as well as the combustor clamp. However, I do want to draw to your attention that there may be a time on the 100E in the Challengers and the 100G in the Gulfstream aircraft, you may have a high voltage ignition system combustor assembly, per Honeywell Service Bulletin 496146. The inspections are primarily the same other than the igniter plug's difference, and you will notice the igniter plug on a high voltage ignition system is much larger in diameter and it's much longer in length compared to the normal low voltage igniter plug. Because the igniter plug's larger diameter, you'll see the cap has a much larger boss for the igniter plug than the small one. And the liner will also have a receiving hole and larger grommet than what the standard low voltage ignition system is. The other item that may be a little different depending, you may also have one of these smaller pre-service Bolton fuel drain check valve fittings as opposed to a fuel drain orifice fitting, and we'll discuss that in more detail in our second part of the video. So what we'll do next is we will remove the safeties to disassemble this combustor assembly. I try to keep this together to give us a little bit more holding leverage while we remove the igniter plug from the assembly. Once you remove the igniter plug from the boss, we will then remove the gasket, and we typically would like to discard this and replace it 100% as a consumable item. We then will remove the fuel orifice overboard drain fitting, and like stated earlier, you may have the check valve, which we will discuss, but either one's fine. Doesn't really matter as long as it inspects properly. You can reinstall it. This also has a packing on it. that we also would like to discard. We also will discard. Now, once you have the igniter plug removed and you have the fuel orifice fitting removed, we can then remove the 3 1032 bolts from the atomizer. Once the atomizer bolts are removed, this combustor assembly will be fully disassembled. You will then remove the fuel atomizer from the combustor assembly, as well as the gasket, which will be discarded. Once those 3 bolts and the atomizer are removed, our combustor assembly is now fully disassembled. To proceed with the inspection of the combustor assembly, you will again refer to section 49-2004 of the maintenance manual for that particular APU. The clamp inspection, which you will find in the maintenance manual, by standard calls out for verifying there's no cracks. It's particularly in the T-bolt and the assembly. No cracks along the band clamp. There's no wear, no stretching. And then of course that the nut has a torque friction to it. No NDTs required on this component. Your combustion liner, also inspections found in section 49-2004 of the maintenance manual, will be inspected for cracks, buckling, for hot gas erosion. You will look inside at the cooling rings inside per the manual, and you will look for erosion wear away. You will check the grommet area for the igniter plug and locking the holding tabs for the grommet to verify nothing's cracked in that area. Of course, if cracks are ever suspected, you will need to NDT this to verify your decision. Many of the combustion liners you will find a thermal barrier coating inside. There is no requirement to inspect that coating, providing everything of the combustion liner and the parent metal of the liner is in good shape, not cracked, distorted, or worn. You will also check the wear tabs for erosion and wear, and some damage is allowed on this liner. Once the liner is inspected, you will then continue on to the combustor cap inspection. You will check for cracks, particularly in these areas where the heat shield is attached to the combustor cap. You will look for cracks along the bosses, anywhere on the cap. You will verify that the mating surface where the atomizer rests is not distorted, nor any distortions anywhere on the parent metal of the cap. Verify that there are no cracks on your heat shield or anything between. Some cracks, some damage is allowed. Refer to the maintenance manual of section 49-2004 to determine whether your condition is acceptable for continued service. Again, if damage or cracks are suspected, there's no NDT requirement, but if there is suspected cracks, you may want to NDT this to verify the extent of the crack and whether it is continued for service or rejected. We will then continue in part 2 of our video to discuss the inspection of the fuel atomizer, the igniter plug, and the fuel orifice drain fitting. Thank you for watching part 1 of our combustor assembly inspection.